Hey everybody, my name is Carrie Gabriel, and today we are here to talk about how we are all connected. So, I am actually a PhD student and I'm working on my practicum hours. So, we thought we'd put together a little series, video series, to teach about fun topics. And so, today is the how are we all connected? So, it's going to be me and Cynthia. You want to tell them about you?
Sure. My name is Cynthia. I'm originally from Uruguay and right now I'm living in Florida. So that's where I met Carrie. And we actually have a lot in common and we like to talk a lot of crazy stuff that usually you don't talk to everybody because they think you out of your mind. So in order to help her with her hours, I decided to join her, and let's see where these take us.
She is downplaying herself. Okay. She's also a Reiki master that performs Reiki. She's also really close to getting her counseling certification. She's going to school for massage therapy. What else?
And I'm gonna get my astrology diploma, whatever it is. Yeah, soon, sometime soon.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have ever tried to look at the natal charts for astrology. It is complicated and it is detailed, and she loves that stuff. So together we make a really good mix of science and spiritual, and quantum medicine is exactly that. It is exactly that. It is medicine that focuses on your whole body, your whole self, your spirituality. They all go together. So I'm gonna just start right now. So how are we all connected? Have you noticed whenever you're in a room and everybody's so excited and they're cheering like at a sporting event or like your annual conference, stuff like that, and everyone's cheering, like the mood is just so elevated and you feel like you can do anything. You feel like you can just walk on like the air because everybody has lifted you up so high. How is that even possible? How does that even work? And then even on the smaller scale, my baby, she has little pom-poms and she's like, go mama, go mama, go mama. And I'm like, yeah, and then on the flip side, what if you're around that grumpy person, or there's somebody who's heckling people, or you go to an office and one of your people that work there, they're always in a bad mood and they just lower it, makes you hate going there. It's like they make the air thick. How does that even happen? How does it happen? It's just such a strange phenomenon to me. So I I feel like that's like level one, like the mood in the room. That's level one. Level two is of how we're connected. I have a funny story for this. Okay, so I'm driving along and I felt that like this very strong urge to stop at like the some bakery shop thing for honey buns. Okay, now if you know me, I don't do that stuff. Like I do not, like that's not something that I ever do. I would stop for vegetables and make my family eat those, but no, I wanted to stop for honey buns. And I get home and I told my mom, I was like, I don't know, but I got this bag full of treats. I don't know what came over me. And my daughter, she was like, oh, you brought my honey buns. And I was like, you're the reason I did that. So she was able to connect with me through what her feelings, what she was really wanting. She put that out to me and I felt it and I got that girl honey buns. So that's like the next level. And then Cynthia, do you want to add anything in?
I mean, to this, from my experience and what I've been working on is that, the universe is like this whole thing that we are in, and each of us is pure energy. I'm a ball of energy, you are a ball of energy, everybody is. So energy, like someone said, vibrates in different frequencies. So our brain, as you know, creates energy and vibrations and frequencies in waves. So we don't see it the same way we don't see gravity. And gravity is an energy that keeps us here and now floating. But we know it exists. It has been proven. So this is the same thing. Like we create all this energy around us. We have this field, this aura around us, this electromagnetic field. And what happened to you, and probably happened to all of us at some point, somehow, is we are living these waves of energy, of vibration. And you are connected to a person. In this case, it was your daughter. So you have actually a really strong bond emotionally to her as well. And that happens to me a lot with my son. It's not even that he asked me for anything, but it's like I wake up 10 minutes before he wakes up during the night. And he doesn't wake up like every night. It's sometimes yes, sometimes he doesn't. So I'm all of a sudden rolling around in the bed like, oh, I can't go back to sleep. And then he called me. And that happens like since he was a baby. And to us moms, we all experience that. So we're not in the same body anymore. They're not inside us anymore, right? But we still connected. And these same connections happens with other people that we happen to meet in life. That sometimes we say, oh my God, like this is a stranger. Why do I have this connection with this person? Well, we're not really strangers. But we get into that later on, so you can move on with your idea.
Yeah, Albert Einstein actually has a quote, and it's everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. So just like,
oh my God, I have an Einstein quote too.
Did you know it was Albert Einstein?
This is what we're talking about. See?
We did this stuff all the time. And that's the first thing on my paper. But just like she said, we're literally all energy. Everything around us is energy. And that's where I'm going to start with. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Newtonian physics. This is the one you probably learned in school if you learned about physics. It was the first kind, the first one that we studied. And this is everything is continuous. It was, Isaac Newton, the apple fell. And that's when he figured out gravity, right? So the apple fell and it landed. And it always does the exact same thing. Always the exact same thing. That's how we can shoot rockets into space. That's how we can fly an airplane and get where we're going. It's all the same. It's always the same. So it's the physics of the predictability. But then we figured out as science advanced that there's stuff happening on the subatomic level. And that's when you get into the quantum physics realm. And so whenever you probably learned this in school, and this is going to be a really big flashback for you, but the nucleus of an atom has protons and neutrons, and then outside is the electrons, right? You all learn that. Some of you guys are like, I don't remember that, but that's what we learned. Those two are on the inside. The electrons are always going around. Always. That's what they're doing. But that's not actually what they do. And if you get into, so if you get into like looking at the small, like electrons are tiny. They're so tiny. If a nucleus was the size of like a car, an electron would be the size of a pea. Like that's how little these little things are floating around. And whenever we're looking at them, we realize that they actually gain energy, they lose energy, they bounce around. Instead of like the apple falling straight down, it's like it goes downstairs, like it goes fast, slow, fast, slow. It does whatever it wants. It's all over the place. And that's when quantum physics was born, whenever we realized that they all do that. Sorry, I have my notes. So it just became real obvious to scientists that these electrons were doing whatever they wanted. They were all over the place. We thought there was like 2 valence electrons, then there's 8. That's not the case. They're literally everywhere. The number accounts for the bonding, but they're not going in circles. They're not. So the observer effect is where we're going to get into this connection. Okay, I just wanted you guys to have a little bit of an idea. Quantum physics is like the study of the tiny stuff. That's what it is, the teeny tiny stuff. So the observer effect tells us that when we look at something, it does something different. So if we were to not pay attention to these electrons, they probably just go woo woo. But when we look, it's like when you look at your kids, like they are just going on about their business. But when they see you watching them, they're like doing something. They're like, I didn't touch it. I didn't, that's what these electrons do. Okay. And it's the observer effect. And this is actually, it sounds completely insane, but this has been scientifically proven that when we watch stuff, it does something different. It is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So scientists figured out how to study this, and mathematicians figured out how to do their mathy stuff with it and to measure it. And that's how we got the unified field, and it governs everything. It governs absolutely everything. So 3D gives us the illusion that everything is separate. Like I'm sitting here, you're sitting there, my drink is right here. Like everything is separate. But the quantum field, the unified field, shows us that everything is actually connected. It's connected with our senses. If we can't smell it, touch it, whatever, we feel like it doesn't exist. Just like Cynthia was saying earlier. But there's something bigger, the unified field, which is our subconscious mind gets to it all the time. All the time. That's why when you feel like you know somebody, it's because you probably do know them. You probably do. If you haven't met them this time, you've met them before, So the quantum model exists beyond our senses, and it can only be experienced with awareness. Energy, frequency, vibration, realm of thought, all that. Just because we can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I talked for a lot of time. Cynthia, do you want to break in?
Well, I love this because I was just reading about it. Well, literally just reading about it. So when you mentioned it, I was like, oh my God, like talking about connection, right? So I like I like to start with the observer effect, right? That we also, when we try to work on a spiritual level, the first thing that they teach us or they ask us do is our breathing, right? Start like paying attention to how you breathe. Because actually your breathing is the only thing that is happening right now, right here. And at the same time that you did it, it just disappeared. So it's bringing you to the awareness, to the here and now, because we usually are not here and now. And that's why sometimes when we want to manifest something, it's hard for us to do, or it's like, why some people can do it and I cannot? And like, oh my God, I didn't see this happening. And actually in the back of your mind, you were thinking about it all the time. And especially when it's something that is negative, which in terms of energy, we don't talk about positive or negative energy in our bodies or around us. We talk about low or high frequencies, dense or high frequencies. When someone is vibrating in a high frequency, we want to try to reach always the 5D dimension. And the 3D dimension that Carrie was talking about is pretty much like this. What we see is the plane that we live in now. But that doesn't mean that we are there only. We can be in different planes at the same time. It's like the grid of the electricity. The grid runs all around and connects us all, and each of us in our house, right? We are connected to that same grid. The same happens with us. Each of us, we are connected to the same source, the same power, the same source of energy. So There is a study that I was telling Carrie the other day that is really interesting, because while I was doing my master in Reiki, my master tell this example, because he's all about science as well, and is how connected are we that even if we don't know each other, we can actually experience the same things if we are exposed to the same factors. Like, for example, this was done with the study was done with two students from a university. They were sat one in front of the other, and they didn't know each other. The people asked them to look at themselves, and me to let's say Carrie and I had to think about Carrie, and Carrie had to think about me. That's it. That was the whole thing. Close our eyes and keep thinking about the other person all the time. At one point, they remove one of us, let's say me, and take me to the other side of the building. And after a time frame, they flash a flashlight in front of my eyes. I have my eyes closed, but as you know, you still notice that something is flashing in front of your eyes. So what they do in this, they are recording the brain activity. By the end of the study, they realized the other person, in this case Carrie, she was having the same effects at the same exact time. The waves will be the same exact result, even though she never got that flashlight in her eyes. It was me all the time. But because she was thinking about me all the time and I was thinking about her, we were establishing this connection. This energy was flowing, because when we talk about energy, there is no time or space. There is no day, nothing. And then they did this again, but with someone in New York and someone in London. So the person, they actually had a picture of the other person, and they were allowed to call themselves over the phone for like 5 minutes. So they talk to each other for 5 minutes. Okay, yes, I'm Cynthia and Carrie. How you doing? Yes, I guess we're gonna do this. Yes, let's do it. Done. So same thing. They at the same time they were like getting all the activity recorder, and the same result happened. So it doesn't matter where are we, and even if we know each other, it's all a matter of awareness, because when we are the observer, it is said that the brain is not active. Like, when you stay still and observe something without having any thoughts, any process in your brain coming, and that's the hard part about meditation, like shutting off your brain, like not having any thoughts or anything like that. And if you have them, just looking at them, like observe them, let them go, not engaging them. When you are able to do that, you actually, your true self, your subconscious mind is actually coming to a surface, and it's your true self who is actually taking over now. And I was talking to Carrie before about how the waves in our brain changes the frequency, and when we actually achieve that point where we can observe, we actually go to a lower frequency. The ones that we get when we are kids, when we are sleeping, is when our conscious mind, when our brain is not active that much. So we connect actually with what is outside the physical world. And what is it? We actually can access like memories, emotions. So that's why sometimes it's so where the emphasis in meditating and getting to this state is so much, like people try to do it all the time, like do this, meditate, like get yourself to that state, because we're not the brain. There's something else, and the only way for us to actually get there is to bring awareness. So I talk too much right now. Your turn.
You know what's funny is I have a lot of the same exact stuff, but in different words.
Right.
And when you were saying that, I was also thinking this is why stuff like hypnosis really works. Because if you picture it, it's like we're here, right? We're just like in this little area, but there's all this stuff everywhere that we can get to. But to get there, we have to slow our brains down. We have to. And things like hypnosis, meditation, things like that help with that. But it's also like you stop paying attention to the material things, even in your whole like in normal life. If you stop paying attention to that and you start trying to think of yourself as connected to everybody instead of having that separation, having that oneness is what the goal is. Because when you have the oneness, you're reaching that quantum field that has all the order. It has everything. They know exactly where everything needs to be. This is why spirituality is connected to religion a lot. And people who think like quantum medicine and things like that are not Christian, things like, saying you shouldn't listen to these kind of things. It doesn't make sense, because it's literally a stronger connection to God. It is. So, if you can, like she was saying, slow down your brain waves. And it's hard because we do that when we're sleeping. Like we got that down. Like we can all go to sleep, right? But to do it when you're awake is harder. But it's something that you can work on. And whenever you can shut down that analytical part of your mind where you're thinking about stuff, you're asking questions, you're like, why is it like this? What is this? Like when you're doing that, it's counterproductive because you're trying to connect to something. You're not trying to keep that barrier up. But whenever you can connect to that level of oneness and focus on the energy, you create more order in your brain, which is partly why I love the brain, because I'm all about building those connections. But you got to get yourself down so that you can connect, so that you can reorder it. That sounds so complicated, but it's a simple idea. It is. I mean, think about it. If you're running around like crazy, how stressed out are you? How much are you really getting done? But if you just like go with the flow, how much happier are you? And there's a reason for that. So the quantum model of possibilities is where all the possibilities exist. Like that area that we're all trying to reach, where we're all connected, that everything that you could ever want is up there. Everything. I mean, so all your thoughts and your feelings go through this field, so you can use it for manifestation also. But you got to stop living in lack, because if I know we say this all the time, like think about your dream car, like smell it, whatever, you feel like you imagine you're driving it. But when you open your eyes and you're like, I'm in my Chevy, then that lack feeling comes back. And then you just wiped out everything that you're doing. You have to put the intention out, and then you have to keep the emotion there. And I know you guys have heard this a million times, but live as you already are, as if you already are. Okay, maybe you didn't hear that because I think I butchered it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be, it's okay. If you want to be super healthy, live as if you already are healthy. If you want to be some kind of influencer, live as if you already are. And then you're going to put that intention. It keeps the emotion there because you're living as if, and that's how you're going to manifest. And it's all coming from that quantum field that connects all of us.
Yes, and I want to add to that when we manifest, actually, people like we humans, because we are more than humans, right? But we come here and we decided to experience this human life, these emotions, these losses, these tragedies, this happiness, all this. So we want everything now. We want everything like for yesterday. Okay, I want this for right now, for tomorrow. Like I want my dream job for tomorrow. I want to, I don't know, get out of this relationship right now and get over it with and be happy and jumping around. And that doesn't happen, because in this dimension that we live in as humans, everything takes time. But that doesn't mean that when you want to manifest something, it's not going to happen just because it's not happening overnight. So because energy travels in time in that different sense that the one that we have in our watches. We can actually put out there what we want and just be confident that it's going to happen. Because if you truly want it, and if you actually put in your emotion into it, your intention, you have to keep it. Like you have to keep doing it. It's like a habit. You have to make it a habit, and you actually see that it's going to happen eventually. And if it's not happening, this is the truth about like manifestation. Sometimes it's rarely when it happens exactly the same way you want, but it will happen eventually. Let's say, I don't know, when you try to manifest something, when you're trying to get something, you have to be very, very specific on the details. Otherwise, some things are gonna change, and you're gonna be like, oh, well, okay, I got the job, but I mean, and my boss is terrible. So what I'm gonna do? Do I keep my dream job, or do I search for another one because I can't stand my boss? Well, maybe when you were trying to visualize and materialize that job, you didn't think about the fact of having a boss and how you wanted to be that boss. Same happens with everything. Like you are putting out in this reality, in this matrix, you are creating this already in your mind. So it's right there, right now. So the more you hold on to that, it's going to happen the way you want it. But you have to be very specific with what you put out there. And that happens also when we are trying to, what can I say? Like when we talk about ourselves, well, the words that we use in every day, if you can start paying attention on how you talk, the words you use, I can, or I shouldn't, or I don't feel good, or I can't, I don't know, stuff like that, right? You limiting yourself. You actually put in a wall, you actually put in a cage around you saying you can't do that, you're not enough to do that, you're not smart enough, or you wish you were like, right? Like, that happens all the time. Because I don't know, for a lot of us, especially now with social media and stuff like that, everybody is living a lie. So it is so important that we actually reach out to our own true power that we have. I have nothing against religion, unless organized religion, but that's another day. But like if you actually taking charge of you own energy, you power. In Reiki, what we call the solar plexus is where you power resides, right here in your stomach. You can make a lot of changes in your life, but you have to take care of that. You can't put your power somewhere else outside of you anymore. And yes, somebody said you're getting what you asked for. Yes, exactly. You're getting what you asked for, even when you don't notice or don't realize you're asking for bad things to happen. I remember I had a really hard childhood, like not childhood, but like from my 12s to my 18s, they were crazy with a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And I remember after I was with my husband, like everything will go fine for a time, right? And I will be like, huh, that's so strange. Like nothing bad happened yet. And soon after, forget about it. Something came up. I don't know what, I can't remember. But there was like something came up after I would say that. So I was bringing that. And when you start like really paying attention to the power of our words, the energy of what we say is even more powerful than what we think. So you have to be very careful the way that you express yourself, especially the way that you talk about yourself, the way that you think about yourself and stuff like that. Maybe I went off topic, but I just feel the need to say it. So what I was okay, we can go back to you.
Well, somebody needed to hear the power of life and death is in the tongue. It is, because if you say it, you were thinking it. And just by thinking that, you're changing stuff, because we have that power. So actually, you know what, I that's in my notes. That's where I was ending. When you stop living in lack, you can actually draw energy to you, because when you're living in that state of lack or thinking about it, it's actually pushing the energy away. Like it doesn't want to be around that, because you can't be in lack and have energy. That doesn't go together. But when you can release that, then you can pull that energy to you. And your thoughts and your feelings matter, not just what you're saying, but what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And those feelings will draw it back to you. So I was going to end there. Cynthia, do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, no, really, but I just would like to say, like, we can test the energy. Like the other day we were talking about, if you choose someone and just try to do like this exercise of looking at yourself in the eyes, just quiet, like observe your reactions, observe what is going on in your body, your heart rate, your blood pressure, if you're sweating, if you're not, if you're getting nervous, all those sensations and all those things that start coming out is all is because of the energy between the two of you. So, and it's also good because it's a good exercise. How many times we actually have a conversation, or we actually look into somebody's eyes, right? Without having any words in between, like just connecting with the other person, just like that. And sometimes it's necessary to do it for ourselves. So another exercise is just to do it with the mirror. So just, who are you? Who am I? You know? So do I know myself, or I have this persona that I think I am? Like, what do I feel when I look at myself in the mirror? So that's another thing that I love to do as a therapy. And it's like going back into your child, your inner child, or yourself, pretty much. Just look in the mirror, and every day at least 5 minutes, don't say anything, and then little by little just start talking to yourself and finding out who you really are and what comes up, what emotions are there. Because this energy, it is inside you, and probably we all have some type of wounds that we carry. In astrology, we actually have a wound, a forever wound that is never going to be healed, but is a point for us for evolution. So when we actually look into that, we can learn a lot about the things that in this life hurt us, or affect us the most, and that we really don't know why. So I just gonna leave over there, and I just want to say that it was a pleasure to do this with you, Carrie, and with everybody, and thank you so much for joining. I had a blast.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to end the recording, and then if you guys have any questions, just feel free to open it up. So bye, recording people.